Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is the August 27th, 2026 meeting of the Dartmouth Board of Public Works. This meeting is being held virtually by Zoom, and it's being recorded. As such, I will take a roll of members. Mr. Gagne,
Present.
Mr. Greenlaw,
Present.
Mr. Anazera,
Here. Present.
and I am the chair, and I'm here. So we have a quorum. We normally have a set agenda, including minutes and approval of warrants and payroll. This morning we have no minutes to look at. Our first order of business is to approve and accept the warrants for bills payable period ending June 29th.
I'd make a motion that we approve and accept the warrants for bills payable for the period in June 29th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Gagne moved. Mr. Greenlaw second. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Mr. Aznera?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next is approve and accept payroll for weeks ending July 25th, August 1st, August 8th, August 15th, and August 22nd. Do I have a motion?
I move the motion that we approve and accept the payroll for the weeks ending July the 21st, August the 1st, August the 8th, August the 15th, and August the 22nd.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Aznera. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Aznera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The item is approved. Next on the agenda is old business. Item A is a discussion of the scope of an operational study. Tim, you want to introduce this?
Yes, so I had sent out a scope of work for the operational study, which was previously reviewed, and I had recommendations from the select board as well as the board of public works. We had reached out to a couple of firms to estimate this scope or put a fee to it, and the fee was approximately came in with a couple of firms at around $60,000. So we're looking at maybe reducing the scope a little bit to get that number down, reduced. I did speak to one of the firms and asked them to take a look at the scope and maybe reduce if there's anything that they see that could be removed or reduced, including the number of municipalities, comparable municipalities that they look at. I think originally they were looking at about 10 comparable municipalities, which increases that cost. So, my thought was, possibly to reduce that number to a reasonable number to bring that cost down. Has anybody read the attached scope and have any comments on it?
Board members, any comments? Mr. Gagne?
I think one of the very important things is that, as Tim has mentioned, it was a consolidated effort between the select board and the Board of Public Works to put together the items that we wanted to look at relative to total operations of the Department of Public Works. Through the discussions that Tim had with the town administrator and had with our board and Cody had with his board, we put into place the position of the business manager for the Department of Public Works. I think one of the important things we need to do is that we have Tim and Brandy and Cody sit down and see what items in that operational study Brandy is going to undertake, because it was obvious that putting a business manager in place and assisting in the analysis of some critical components of the DPW, Brandy was selected for that position. I think that could reduce the amount or cost of the study itself. I actually worked with Brandy for a period of time when I was interim CFO in the city of Bedford. Her talents are exceptional, and I think we can get some of the things prioritized in that operational study in both the select board and the Board of Public Works and get updates versus, waiting for something from a consultant down the road. I think, it's important. It's actually been a year ago that we had a joint meeting with the select board to talk about this issue and formulate the plan. We need to get that underway, though.
Board members, any other comments?
I guess just talking about the number of communities, I think it's more important that you get approval of the communities. I think 3 to 5 should suffice, but you want to get communities that are similar size and complexity, or versus just 10 random. I've seen some of these studies where they pick up communities that have absolutely nothing or very little in common. So I think it's the quality, not the quantity, for the comparables.
Any other comments? All right, Tim, this is not on the agenda for approval. However, I think the board's direction is pretty clear. If you could talk to the town administrator and your business manager and settle on a final scope, I think it's close enough that you should move forward with it. And perhaps you could inform the board by email when you take the next steps.
Absolutely. I mentioned I did reach out to one of the consultants that had previously provided a scope and fee and discussed it with them, and they're working on a revision to move forward. So once I have that, I'll also reach out to a couple others to get scope and fee from them, and I will submit those to the board as I receive them.
I'd like to echo Mr. Gagne's suggestion that a discussion among your business manager, the town administrator, and you clarify the actual role that the business manager is going to play. I know the business manager is pulled in several directions right now and is busy, and I think it's important that you make clear what additional responsibility she's going to have in this. I think she can play an important role. I agree with Mr. Gagne on that, but I'm concerned about her span of control and ability to perform the other functions she's responsible for.
Absolutely.
All right. If there's no other discussion, we'll go to item B, storm debris planning.
So we have been working on this for quite a while. We started work with the Great New Bedford Refuge District, as they also were putting together a debris plan for storms. And recently, our assistant director, Sandy, has been working diligently on it and has provided a draft plan for me to review. Once I review it and make comments, we'll see if there's anything that needs to be revised, and then we'll submit it to the board for review. We also we worked on a plan of sites at our last meeting. The board requested some proposed sites for debris management, processing, stockpiling, and we came up with a number of sites and put them on a plan. Sandy was working on that plan over the past week, and I submitted that earlier to the board for review.
Board members, any comments? Hearing none, then Tim, you will be reporting back to us when you have a draft plan that we can discuss.
Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll work on checking the feasibility of each of these sites as it's currently a draft and what their needs are to be able to stockpile or process materials and specific materials. And we may have to work with the town administrator, park department, other agencies in towns, as well as some private companies in town that have large commercial lots that we were looking at. So the requirement using the Army Corps of Engineer calculation based on our population is 46 acres of site to process and stockpile material. And then there's an additional calculation for buffers and setbacks, which the total comes out to 76 acres. So right now we're at the 46 acres of site, but we'll have to look at the logistics on how they calculate the buffers in, and we may have to add a few more sites to equal that 76 acres.
Tim, looking at the map, I have a concern about haul distance of some of those sites, given that in a hurricane emergency, much of the debris is likely to be right along the coast, and a number of the sites are pretty far inland. And I'm wondering if it's possible to utilize some private sites that are now perhaps in agriculture or otherwise unused. Are you in a position to approach landowners at this point about being able to use their sites?
We definitely can. We would have to come up with an agreement with private landowners.
All right.
Yes, especially on the south side. I was noticing that too. That just seems where you probably get the most damage.
Right. The town doesn't own a lot of land out along the coast, and if it is, it's usually wet or marsh and restricted. So, using maybe private agricultural land might be good for some material.
Well, once you got it on a truck, driving another 10 minutes really doesn't make a difference. I've watched a lot of this hauling in Florida and processing, and it seems as like they haul a lot of it to one main site, which I've seen in operation at two different occasions. And that's where they bring in the different types of equipment, screeners and things, and then from there they haul out. So if anything, we may have too many sites, because if you got to get it on a truck, they has to drive another 10 minutes, doesn't make much of a difference. It's the loading that takes the most time. So just from my recent observation over the past 5 years of watching two of those good size operations, where the Fort Myers area got hit big time in 22.
Excuse me, Robert, please stop sending me stuff.
All right.
So what I can say is, so we have primary sites, and then we have secondary sites. I think most of the town-owned sites would be the primary site, and then which would be used in smaller storms and larger storms. And if we need additional sites, I think getting agreements ahead of time for some other sites is a good idea to have those secondary sites if needed. And like I said, the acreage will be needed on the plan.
Right, because your first priority would be clearing roads.
Correct.
Tim,
Stop sending.
A lot of debris will be on private properties, where anything that's in the road, is what we will be processing. Anything within the right of way will be clearing and moving that material to sites.
Tim, I had one question.
Sure.
Just if you're looking to maybe use some private land sites for
Yes.
processing, how do we limit the town's liability for any possible pollution of the site or damage to the site? What would that agreement look like?
Right. So we would have to look at. We haven't gotten that far with land agreements, but we'll look at other agreements that are in effect. Maybe talk with town council on some of these agreements. There's a number of materials that we have to provide for. So we have construction and demolition, municipal trash, brush and tree related. So I think brush and tree related is something that we could stockpile in an agricultural parcel that wouldn't have much of an impact as far as contamination. There may be disturbance, which we would have to come to agreement on repairing any disturbance. Other stuff like white goods, hazardous materials. Obviously, hazardous materials you're not going to store on an agricultural site. So that would be on a paved site that's secure, whether it's the DPW highway yard or another site that has a paved surface that can be encapsulated or secured.
I don't think any homeowner would, the property owner would allow us to use and also sign a hold harmless. If the town's going to use the property, the town's going to be responsible for any damage. Otherwise, they're not going to allow us to use it. That's foregone conclusion. I wouldn't. I don't think any other property owner would allow it. If the town goes in there, the town's going to be responsible for any damage.
I'm sorry, Tim, I'm sure there are agreements both within the Commonwealth and in other states, for example, as mentioned, Florida, that will provide some kind of guidance as to use of private properties, some of the liability issues, and what those agreements should look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're in it.
Yeah, I presume you and your staff will avail yourselves to those kinds of, if you will, models, because we're obviously not inventing something here. And I think the observations as to haul distances are very valuable. And when you've got board members with experience, I definitely use it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, that concludes our old business. On our new business, Cedardale monitoring agreement. Tim?
So this is part of our annual monitoring required by DEP. So ever since we installed the Pinelli wells and upgraded the Violetta wells, the state has required that we monitor the Cedardale Lake. Last year we had purchased through a grant some new monitoring equipment, and that was installed by AECOM to continue the monitoring. And this $5,000 amendment was Amendment 1. Last meeting, we approved Amendment 2, and Amendment 1 was also supposed to be included in this. It was for the state reporting. I had administratively approved this to move it forward so we could get that report to the state on time. But this is the Amendment 1 to that contract, and this was funded through the operating budget, through the consultant line.
So you're looking for board's concurrence and approval on this?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
Rob, it was either at the last meeting or the meeting before our previous one. It was either you or Ron had brought up the subject of getting from AECOM the data as to whether or not over the period of time that AECOM's been doing that monitoring, if they had ever triggered a level in that lake, in that pond that required the shutdown of the wells based on that data. I thought that was an important thing to look at, especially as we explore additional opportunities for groundwater production.
We have not. We have not ever hit a level that we had to shut down the wells with the Cedar Dells Lake, and we do have a lot of data through periods of pumping, through drought periods when the wells were offline due to other issues, and the lake level and the responses with rain events. So we do have a lot of that data. But we've never had to shut the wells down due to the lake level.
Since we have a significant amount of municipal wells between Violetta and Pinelli in that area, and we have authorized further exploration of drinking water supplies, it would be interesting to see that if you pick a site, in that particular watershed, and do the 7-day pump test on a possible location to closely monitor, what's happening at Cedar Dell. Violetta was actually the very first well site that the town went to after they knew that Chase Road or the Pascomancy Valley wells were, at capacity for the drawdown on that aquifer.
Tim, do you think AECOM would be willing to provide a short historical overview as part of their annual report that would touch these issues of response of wells and the pond during different conditions?
I do, absolutely. Yes.
And that data would be very interesting to see the data for the the pond levels compared on the same chart as the drought periods that we experienced over the last 5 or 10 years, because we could then do a better correlation on what potentially or no potential effect is on Cedar Dell.
Right. I'll work with AECOM to put together a presentation for the board. I think that would be helpful. That'd be great.
Yeah. Did the town ever ask the DEP to scale back the amount of monitoring and reporting to save some money?
Yes, and they weren't accepting it. They still require us to do the same monitoring, but we can make that request again.
Yeah, I think it depends on the level, but if you have all those years of data, it was successful on one well site to decrease it substantially on what we were spending every year. So, I mean, I don't think they'll eliminate it, but if you could reduce it or go to alternate years or something, because it's significant cost to the water operation.
It is.
Okay, Tim, could you report back progress on the annual report, that historic summary, and a strategy to approaching DEP regarding scaling back or eliminating the need for this monitoring?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments, board members?
Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion that we approve amendment number 1 to the Citadel monitoring agreement with the company AECom for the sum of $5,000.
I would second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Gagne. I'm sorry, who seconded?
Lee,
Second by Mr. Asnera. How do you vote, Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Lee?
yes.
Addison?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Item B, MS4 permit, year 9.
So this is our annual MS4 assistance agreement with Ty and Bond. This is for year 9 for our MS4 permit. The typical agreement includes field sampling, catchment investigations, GIS mapping, illicit discharge detection and elimination, BMP inspections, and reporting. Typically, we include the field work and the GIS mapping. The reporting is separate, and this year we added the reporting to the annual contract, and then this contract also includes a spill prevention control and countermeasures plan update, which we update every 5 years. Our last update was 5 years ago, so we included that into this agreement as well. So this is funded to the operating budget, and this is scope and fee for $60,000 to Ty and Bond.
Board members, any questions?
I have one. Tim, do they do all the field work, or do your staff do some of the field work along with them?
We work along with their staff on the field work for all field investigations, catchment investigations, and the BMP inspections, and also the any of the IDDE work and the SWIP work.
Have they found any problem areas so far?
There have been a couple of problem areas that we've traced that, and we're looking at some retrofit, stormwater retrofit possibilities in a couple of areas, and we haven't found a lot of illicit detection, illicit discharges, but every once in a while there is one that pops up or evidence of one, and we investigated as well with Ty and Bond, and then we report it to them, and they report it to the state.
No sewer cross connections?
No sewer cross connections.
Okay, that's good. All right, I will make a motion to approve that.
Can I ask one question, Lee, before we vote on the motion? I think this particular subject, MS4, is one of those items that 99% of the people in the community don't know what MS4 is and what the EPA requires. And as you see, we're on year number 9. By most accounts, people would think that's a spy agency versus a regulation from the EPA. I would ask, since we do pay Ty and Bond a substantial sum of money, that they produce a 2 or 3 page summary of what MS, so that we can put that up on the town's website. Probably be a good subject to consider if we're going to be doing some monthly or bi-monthly briefings with the DCTV crew. People don't realize that what we agree to, which is mandated by the EPA, we're responsible for its implementation. Some of the stormwater management requirements that our DPW engineering staff review are directly correlated to these MS4 requirements. And I think this is a fine subject for some clarification so that folks understand better how these things come about and what the implications are. There are communities for their compliance that have actually had to have a stormwater utility, developed, and there's a stormwater utility charge. We go 9 years and the public doesn't really know much about MS4. I think it's time we put together some information so that there's a spot on the town webpage that people can go and look at it. And I would ask that this subject be put on as one of the items that we could do with DCTV to better inform the community what Public Works is about.
Absolutely. And for everybody's knowledge, the MS4 is municipal separate storm sewer system. So you get the 4 S's, separate storm sewer system. That's why it's MS4. And yeah, I think that'd be great. We do some public notification with Ty and Bond. I think an informative packet and with some work with DCTV would be great.
I can tell you are working probably with the most experienced MS4 team in the state.
Yeah.
This group of mostly ladies, Emily Servo leading it. They're really this is what they do. They've done it all over the state, and they're quite knowledgeable in this area. So I think you got a good team on.
Absolutely, they're great to work with, and they do great reporting, we've created a great stormwater GIS map interactive with them, and once it's fully updated, it'll be a great useful tool.
And I'm sure they could easily come up with what Mike is suggesting, because I'm sure they've done it for other communities.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Tim, my observation is that the town is not well educated as to what this is all about, but more importantly, what individual people can do as they're out and about and at their own homes. And I think that educational component is essential. It's one of the 6 minimum control measures. And I really think what other board members have suggested is urgently needed to be sure we stay in compliance.
Absolutely. It is. And I agree. And I think that's a great idea. And we'll work with DCTV and our consultants to get that moving.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Azanera, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Azanera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is approval of revisions to the approval process of rules and regulations. Tim?
Yeah, so this isn't approval of any revisions. This is the current process to approve the rules and regulations of the water division. Has historically gone through town meeting vote. In speaking with the town administrator and with town council, that a town meeting vote shouldn't be needed for a regulation. It's typically for a bylaw. So the first step in the process to change the process of how this is approved and make the approval process through the board is to have the board approve that change. So the steps to change that process is this would then have to go to town meeting for a town meeting to vote to change that process, and a bylaw would need to be created through town meeting, which would enforce these regulations.
Board members, any questions?
That's Tim. That sounds in line of the way we worked it in my past life. So that seems to make sense. You shouldn't have to go to the town meeting every time you need to make a minor change, which many times it's minor changes and tweaks that you have to do. So I think it makes sense that the board would be the ones that would be making those changes. But the enforcement part has to be voted by town meeting. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we are looking to update these regulations rather than just a minor update. We're looking at updating them, making them more current, and updating some of the enforcement. So I think moving forward with this, we can bring it to town meeting, and we work on a bylaw as well.
So, Tim, if I understand correctly, there are two issues that will go to town meeting. One is the process for revising the regulations, and the second is developing a bylaw for fines, primarily. Is that correct?
Yeah, for enforcement, yes.
Okay, so we'd have actually two items on the town meeting, and you think we can make fall town meeting on this?
I think we can.
Really?
Okay.
Sound optimistic, Tim.
Yeah. We're going to push for fall town meeting. If we can't, we'll get it ready and make sure it's ready for the spring. But we're going to push for fall town meeting.
Okay. Any other questions, board members? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Azaniera. Second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. Azaniera, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is to rescind a tree bid. Tim?
So through our advertising and bidding process, we had approved GBK tree work for our annual tree work for removal and pruning and emergencies at a previous board meeting. Our bidding aide Rosa has been working with GBK to obtain their certificates of insurance and bonds, and they have been unable to provide the required certificates of insurance. And we have a letter here from July 31st that states that they will be unable to provide the $2 million in commercial umbrella excess liability that's required. I've also spoken with our insurance company, and this is absolutely a must, especially for a tree company working in a public way. So they had asked to rescind the award so we can rebid and re-advertise the tree work for the rest of the year.
You can't go to the next bidder?
No, because of the timeline. It's been since we have awarded the bid. I
Okay.
spoke with our bidding aide, and she recommended that we rebid it, re-advertise.
Board members, any questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved. I don't think we have a choice.
Mr. Azaniera has moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gagne. How do you vote, Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Mr. Azaniera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next is approval of a water and sewer abatement. Tim?
Yes. So Ms. Doldum of 8 Cherry Street had previously requested through the water division a fire hydrant meter to fill her swimming pool. Since there was no fire hydrant available on her side of the street, the water division calculated the volume of the pool as 2,840 cubic feet and permitted her to fill the pool with her garden hose with the pre-approval that they would abate the sewer since this water was not entering the sewer system. And the abatement and request was for $176.08.
Board members, any questions?
I have a general observation, and I think this might have come up during my last stint, which has been 10 years now on the board. But um, if this is following typical protocols, do we really need all of these to be coming to the board, or they should be if we're following established procedure? Do we need to make some changes to allow Tim to sign off on these? Because I know we have a bunch of them, and I remember this coming up before. Is there a way to change this so that as long as it's following established rules or protocols that have been approved by the Board of Public Works? I could see there may be exceptions here and there, but for the typical ones, so that we don't have to be taking individual votes on this, they can just be expedited through the office.
Board members, any comments?
Lee, I think that makes sense. The only thing I would ask is that we have some kind of set of protocols drawn up so we could take a look at them. But I agree, something of this nature is extremely clear. It's not discretionary, and I think it's something we should dispense with through our staff.
Yeah, as Public Works Director in Mansfield, I probably brought one or two a year to the select board who were my water and sewer commissioners. Everything else, the office would handle, and then they would just come to me for signature to sign off on them. But the office staff, the building supervisors, they knew the protocols. They did most of it. Then I would just sign off. I think it just, looking at how many of them are on the agenda, just seems like it's taking up a lot of time and space.
Lee, could you get a copy of the protocol that you had there? And that way we could save some work on behalf of Tim's and his department folks to look at the protocol they had in Mansfield and see if
I'll be honest that I'm not sure. I'll have to check, see how well written it is, but we had two building supervisors that had been there for a very long time, and everybody understood what needed to be done. So I'm not positive it was all written, other than they knew we'd been worked together for so long that everybody knew what the rules were, what would be considered and what would not. But I'll look into it.
Sure. We don't typically get a lot of them. They've always been handled by the board. Anything that is requested due to whether it's like an error on the department's part, the water division will handle interdepartmentally. But anything out of the ordinary would typically come before the board for approval. I think this one could have been probably handled interdepartmentally as well if we had that procedure in place.
Board members, any questions?
I make a motion that we approve the water and sewer abatement request for 8 Cherry Street.
May I just interject? It's not a water abatement, just a sewer abatement.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
All right, so we don't want to abate their water bill, especially for that amount of water. The motion would be revised to vote to approve the sewer abatement charge for 8 Cherry Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gagne, second by Mr. Azaniera. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Azaniera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is an abatement request for 116 Frank Street. Tim?
So Mr. Allison of 116 Frank Street has requested an abatement due to a leak in his water heater and shut-off valve. This bill is for a period is $184.08, which is significantly lower than the previous bill of $230.57. I do not recommend an abatement, as the water accounted for entered through the water system and through the water meter. And it is the property's owner and responsibility to maintain, their appliances for efficiency.
Board members, any discussion?
I would agree with Tim. My caveat would be even if it was obvious that there was more water used, I would only entertain the sewer.
Yeah.
And it didn't go down the sewer. I entertained the sewer, but not the water, because the water went through the meter.
We don't have an amount if there was a leak. I believe Mr. Allison is online.
Mr. Allison?
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Do you have an estimate as to the amount of water that was leaked? I think that was the question.
Well, to make a long story short, basically I had no hot water for 4 days. Not to mention, right, I had to find a plumber that was willing to just take $900 and allow me to have a 3-month payoff plan. So I had to go through this. The amount of water that was coming out of my water heater, every time I used the water, was quite a bit. That $280 that you specified, that's more than what I should be using. I do live by myself, and like I said, I had no hot water. I had to look for a plumber that was willing to take only $900. The final cost came out to $1,900. So he was nice enough to take the $900, and I'm still making payments. So I had to go through a lot of plumbers to finally find one. The plumber that I found, his last name is Pereira, and he was kind enough to do this for me. That valve also was leaking. So, like I said, I live by myself. That it should have been a lot less than the $280.
I can tell you, I live by myself, and I'm away on a regular basis, and I'm paying more than that without leaks.
Tim, I'm looking at his bills, and what was given to us, I don't see an amount for sewer. Is he connected?
Okay, so I live really, really close to the line of New Bedford. My house and the houses that are in Dartmouth, we get our sewer through New Bedford.
And do you get a direct billing from them?
That's a good question. When I do get the bill, it's through the town of Dartmouth. It's combined between, with the amount of water that I use plus the sewer.
Typically, we look at abatement requests both in terms of the water cost and the sewer cost, depending on the circumstances. I'm not sure how the other board members feel, but to me, this seems like one of those requests that we'd be more interested in looking at abating to some extent the sewer charges.
Okay.
So
One of the problems we have here is you don't have an estimate of how much water was wasted through the leaks. And that's always very helpful to know, even a rough estimate.
Let me ask you this much. Okay. So that 280, that was for the 3 months, right?
So that was 184.
Can you say that again?
I believe it was $184.
That the bill we're looking at is 184.08.
Hold on.
And if you look at the top of the bill, there is a charge for New Bedford sewer on there, which is the sewer charge is $110.03. The water charge is $71.03.
So the total amount was how much?
$184.08.
Hey, I could have sworn I paid more than that.
I
So
think,
your
Tim, what
previous
is the,
bill that was due in April was $230.57. This is the we were sent the bill that was due in July.
Right.
The $184.08.
That's water and sewage.
That's water and sewage combined. Yes.
Yeah, Tim and I stand corrected. I see the New Bedford charge is $110.03.
Thank you.
And
You're welcome.
the bulk of the 184.08 is related to the water delivery.
No, it's related to the sewer.
No, the rest of
Oh yeah.
the rest of it. Okay.
Tim, did you look back for the same quarter, prior years? That's all. That's something I always looked at. How's the consumption compare to the same period in 24 and 25?
So we just started quarterly billing this year, so I wouldn't have a quarter, but I would have a biannual. So let's see. So this usage for a quarter, so 3 months, was 100 cubic feet, and I have the previous year, which the bill was read. It was read in May of 2025. That usage is 238 cubic feet.
So if anything, it's a little below average
Correct.
as far as the water consumption. So any leak had minimal impacts because that time of year you're not using outside water, so it should be fairly consistent. So if you use 238 cubic feet in 6 months, 3 months you'd be right around half. So your water consumption is right in line with the prior year.
What about the sewer though?
The sewer, yeah, so the sewer is the same usage. So we base the sewer off of your water usage. So all the water that goes through the meter is also charged the sewer fee. So the 238 for the previous year and the 104 for this quarter is for sewer and water.
Okay.
Board members, consistent with the approach we've used in the past, it looks like a certain amount of water went through the meter and therefore should be charged. And then some amount of water, because it was an internal leak, would not have entered the sewer.
That's correct.
Do any of us have a motion that would encompass that philosophy?
Rob, I may be able to look at the daily usages for that month for the period where Mr. Allison stated there was a leak, and get a closer observation on that.
All right.
If that helps.
Board members, any comments?
I would say that if Tim can verify through historical that there was certain amount over a period of a week or two, then I would consider abating that portion of the sewer.
I would concur with Lee on that.
Okay, Tim?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
we'll contact you and get the dates of the leak, and then we'll go back into the electronic meter system to look at the daily usage for that.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Board members, do you want to see this item back or simply delegate to Tim and his team to make the right abatement?
I would make the motion that, consistent with the discussion we just had, that Tim be given the discretion based upon our comments to resolve this with Mr. Allison.
I would second that, based on factual information.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Mr. Gagne and a second by Mr. Azaniera. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
I vote yes on that motion.
Mr. Azaniera?
I vote yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. We have approved to delegate to Tim action on this item. The next item is water and sewer abatement request for 257 Russell Mills Road. Tim?
So yeah, so this abatement is a little different, and we've seen this a couple times recently. Mr. Kaiserman of Sharon, Mass, is the owner of 257 Russell Mills Road. He had leased out the property to a tenant who, at some point, the tenant was able to change the billing into the tenant's name rather than the property owner's name. We haven't been able to confirm where that took place, but the tenant then did not pay the bill. And I believe Mr. Kaiserman said that the tenant is no longer at the property. The total bills, and the water was used and went through the meter and went through the sewer. The total bill due was $1,555.20, and this is over a number of months and a number of bills.
Mr. Chairman, I think it was 2 meetings ago, we had a similar situation out on Elm Street. And I become concerned that agreements and leases between tenants and landlords seems to end up before our board, where those matters are appropriately before a housing court on an action by the landlord against the leasee. I think this would be an excellent example of what Lee has just mentioned. We shouldn't be chasing situations where, in fact, it doesn't have any correlation to our function and our operation. I would ask that when we consider the provisions, that we would give discretion and authority to the review staff and the superintendent instead of coming before us, that we take up this specific issue, because we shouldn't be seeing these.
May I make
Board members, any other comments?
I will. I'd also like to say that I've worked with the water division and the collector's office, and we're no longer allowing anyone to make changes to a billing name and address without the property owner's authority.
And I think does that also include that when they make the change, that it does not remove the ultimate responsibility of the property owners being liable for the bill?
Correct.
Okay. I went through something similar like this too, where it was just we should have shut them off and we didn't, and we wound up abating water because we made the mistake of not shutting it off when the property owner, I think, was saying to just shut them off.
That is the situation. May I make a comment?
This was shut off, and then the tenant the tenant requested a payment plan
Right.
for this, and then kept using the water. So Mr. Kaiserman is here. He can explain it better to the board if the board so allows.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time. And this is a bit unusual, and I'm not denying that water went through this meter. The issue was that yes, they were allowed to change it into their name, but also if this water was shut off, this bill would not have been accumulated like this. So the water was not shut off, the water was put in their name, and then they were allowed to open a payment plan, which they also defaulted on, which I was unaware of. You know, I can understand and take full responsibility for any water that goes through that meter, but once it's in someone else's name and then they open up a payment plan, I believe there should be some compromise and some responsibility taken by the town and the different departments that allowed this to get to a $1,500 bill. So I appreciate any compromise. It is an issue where they defaulted on an agreement with the town as well as with myself. So, if there's any compromise, I would appreciate it. And this won't happen again due to the changes put forth within the water department, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
How did the board handle the prior case? Similar. You said you had a similar case recently?
That particular case, Lee, the board denied it.
Tim, is there a way to understand how much, excuse me, how much water was used after the town agreed to a repayment plan?
I don't have that information handy, but I can work with the water division to break that up.
I have a bit of a difficult time understanding the reason for any abatement. I assume when the lease of the property was made, that the owner assumed the cost of the water and sewer. That seems to be the case. So the water and sewer were used during that period. Why isn't he responsible to pay for it?
The town entered into an agreement with this person and they allowed it. It never should have been allowed. The water should have been shut off and there should have been no payment plan.
I think this matter needs further research. Mr. Geiserman raises some issues here that I'm a bit concerned about, in that the water agreement was made for payment. I would ask Tim to agenda this for the next meeting so that we can get a little more detail when this happened. So how much was incurred prior to the leasee entering an agreement and what was consumed in the cost before that happened. So I would make a motion that we table the matter until our next meeting so we have more information.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Gagne, second by Mr. Asniera. Mr. Gagne,
I think Mr. Greenlaw beat me to it this time around.
I'm sorry. Second by Mr. Greenlaw. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
I vote yes to table the matter to the next agenda of our board.
Mr. Greenlaw, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Asniera?
I vote yes. And I would recommend that as Tim looks further into this, that maybe he get together with Mr. Geiserman and maybe come back to us with some recommendation.
Yeah, I can work with that.
Chair votes yes. Item is tabled.
In the spirit of compromise, anything that was done after the agreement, I'm willing to pay. If you send me that figure, we'll make it done. I'll free you gentlemen up to take care of other matters. So, Tim, if you want to reach out to me via email or cell, whatever you like, more than happy to pay whatever was passed through that meter prior to the agreement.
All right, I will work with the water division to see if we can calculate that number.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, In lieu of that, do you want to reconsider so that we don't have to take up the matter again?
Mr. Gagne?
I think I'm more interested in seeing how much was incurred when that agreement was arrived at with the leasing. I'd prefer that we just hold on it until the next meeting where we have more information. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll see this item back at our next meeting.
Yes.
Next is consider licensed utility layer application.
So I'm going to put a hold on the licensed utility layer application as we're still waiting for their workers' comp certificate. If we can get that before the end of the meeting, I will come back to that. Is that okay?
Okay, so we'll continue this item.
Can I ask one thing here? As Tim mentioned earlier, why a contract was being canceled for insurance coverage issues or lack of insurance coverage issues. Tim, when was the last time our insurance or our insurance risk advisor looked at how much insurance and bonding you were requiring on this?
They actually we actually discussed this quite often.
Good.
And I reached out to the insurance company regarding some of these questions as well. So,
thank you. Good.
Absolutely.
Okay, Tim, the next item is item H. Wait a minute. So what you want us to do is continue item H, the license utility.
I asked that we continue item H to the end of the meeting.
Okay.
I make a motion that we continue the matter of the request for utility license application for WC Excavation LLC to our next meeting.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Gagne.
I second that.
Second. I'm sorry.
I second the motion.
Yeah, second by Mr. Aznera. Mr. Gagne?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Aznera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Items continued. Okay, next item is item I, presentation on the inflow and infiltration study. Tim?
So we have been working with Hazen and Sawyer for quite a while on our inflow and infiltration program, where we started, with mapping and prioritizing some areas, and we've gone through flow studies and some smoke testing, and we're ready to move to the next step and do some camera work. Hazen, Ben Agarwal, and Mitchell Martin are here for a presentation on our findings and our next steps.
Okay. Mr. Agarwal?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So like Tim said, we have a presentation, kind of go over the results of the study.
Who's going to be sharing? Is it you or Mitchell?
Mitch, do you mind pulling that up?
Okay. If you can't, let me know.
He's all set.
All set? Yes, you should be all set.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready to go. Thank you.
All right, so like Tim said, just kind of a quick summary of what we've been doing. Mitch, you can go to the next one.
Oh, seems like we lost Ben there for a second.
I think Ben's
Uh,
frozen.
Yeah, he seems to be frozen, but I can catch us up to where we are as of now. So there were a couple of previous studies in around 2018, which were mostly focused on, I don't know if you can see my mouse when you can, in this upper western region of the town. Very targeted II studies, which didn't yield many conclusive results. And then in 2024, we undertook a larger sort of system-wide project to find inflow and infiltration regionally, using a much larger number of flow meters and level sensors. And we created this heat map here that you can see to sort of identify where the most II is occurring, and then use symmetrics to determine what the likely types are of II in those regions. So that was the 2024 project. 2025 project was looking at the highest priority regions, and doing some follow-up studies, looking at the infiltration in individual pipe segments using flow isolation, for the regions where our II metrics from our metering showed that there was likely mostly infiltration, and then doing smoke testing in regions where there were faster response times suggesting inflow. That was really only the case in that F5 meter shed, which drains east to New Bedford. Just a quick overview of flow isolation. It's basically the crew will go in into every pipe, and they'll put a weir at the downstream end of every pipe, and they compare what the flow is at the up and downstream end of every pipe, and they'll do this sometime in the middle of the night, when there's the least flow occurring from sewer users. And so that incremental flow is basically entirely infiltration during dry weather periods. And here we have the results for this flow isolation in our various meter sheds here. This meter shed that we're calling F4, which is along Tucker Road, are in a cross country line, mostly along Tucker Road, had about 43,000 gallons per day of infiltration during the flow isolation period, which should be noted was actually a relatively dry antecedent period, which would suggest that during wetter years or wetter parts of a year, you may see even more infiltration. And we have that metric also normalized by the inch diameter miles of the pipe. So that's just sort of surface area of the total pipes within this region. So that sort of tells you how leaky the pipes are, normalized by the number of pipes in this region. So this is one where there's certainly some regions that require some work. And there was a relatively large singular point leak of about 29,000 gallons per day that was found near, I want to say it's 8th Green. Tim, does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's definitely a high priority fix. F5 is a region with actually a fair amount more infiltration that was isolated, of almost 110,000 gallons per day. You can see that the gallons per day, when normalized by the amount of pipe, is quite a bit higher, like 4 times as much, including several individual pipe segments that are contributing 8 or 10,000 gallons per day just themselves in a 200 or 300 foot span, which is potentially concerning for pipe collapse a lot of times when you see numbers that high. F5 is also where we did smoke testing. And there was a number of smoke testing results, positive findings of smoke coming out of things that were not vents on the top of houses where you would expect them to see. So this is smoke that's coming out, which would say that water could come in to the sewer system you would want. Here's a foundation pipe that is still connected. The most concerning probably is here at 32 Center Street, where a catch basin street drain is somehow connected to the sanitary sewer here. The flow isolation workers were not able to determine exactly how that was happening, nor were the smoke testing crew, but it certainly warrants further investigation. There's a sort of an area drain or a clean out of some kind here that is also connected, or perhaps just has a leaky cap. A foundation drain on Rogers Street. Here we can see the map that these defects are relatively diffuse. They don't seem to be set clustered in any way in this region. But again, want to highlight that street drain is very important to take a look at. F7 here, this is along Elm Street, downstream of the pump station. Just right here.
That's where I saw a drain manhole cover dancing on the street one time during a rainstorm.
Along Elm Street?
Yeah, somewhere as you go into the village, the drain manhole cover, or the sewer manhole cover, not drain, the sewer manhole cover was dancing in the street because the water, the flow was almost pushing it out. So I'm sure there's quite a bit of I-9 in that area. If it hasn't been, it might have been corrected since then.
Well, so our metering from the 2024 study showed that this was a high priority region. It seems by meter metrics, if you meter it over a long period of time, there does seem to be a fair amount of I-9 in this region. The flow isolation along the sidelines, I don't know how easy it is to see the legend here, but these green pipes are negative flow isolation results. There's no additional flow found along these lines. And these purple lines are moderate, somewhere between, they're about 2,500 gallons per day or something. Up to between 0 and 2,500. The main sewer along Elm Street, this black line here, the flow isolation crew was unable to get a good reading of because of the cycle time of the pump station. They couldn't, it wasn't down for long enough for them to get readings on the up and downstream of a pipe. So we would recommend that you CCTV that pipe along Elm Street. It seems like the sidelines are less of a problem, but given the meter results from the previous study, we still think there may be something to look at here. F8 is very close to F7. You can see Elm Street is up here. And I believe the pump station is here, the Captain's Lane pump station. This had the highest infiltration when normalized by length and diameter of pipe, over 16,000 gallons per day per inch diameter mile, including some individual sections of pipe along the coast that are contributing 10, 15, 20,000 gallons per day in some conditions. And so yeah, this is another very high priority region. Overall, our recommendations for our high priority recommendations are for F5, F8, and F4. And for F4, that one point defect is the highest priority. For F8, it's probably CCTV in the entire region. In our experience, when we see large amounts of infiltration near a large body of water like this, doing targeted repairs on the leakiest pipe is likely to just lead the water to come in on the next pipe. If the water table is high enough, that it usually makes sense to look at that whole region instead of trying to chase that leak as it goes up and up and up and up and up.
You'd be looking at lining the whole area.
Possibly.
Without having CCTV results, it's difficult to say what the right answer would be. It may be that it may be that there's more structural defects that you might be lining manholes. You may need to line some pipes. It depends on the condition of the pipe. You may need to replace some sections of pipes. It's a kind of answer that would definitely warrant CCTV first. Difficult to speculate. And for F5, similar. We recommend that you CCTV the entire region. Obviously, separate that connected catch basin, and go through and repair those defective pipes or structures that are causing such a large amount of II in that region. We solicited a number of quotes for performing CCTV in all 4 high priority regions. And we received 3 quotes, which range between 85,000 and 185,000. And should note that these quotes are about 10 months old at this point. So prices are not.
So if I recall,
Guaranteed.
there were 2 quotes in the 185K range, and
That's
a
approximately
single
correct.
quote at 85K. And by the way, the 2 higher ones, I'm familiar with both companies. I've never heard of this fellow with an $85,000 quote. Just curious if you have any experience with them.
We have not worked with them recently. Ben, I don't know if you want to speak more to Truex and their.
We've had feedback, like Mitch said, not within the past couple of years, but in our experience, I guess to boil it down, you kind of get what you pay for in a sense, where they may come in with a lower price, but you'll have more problems and quality concerns with the data. So, the feedback we've heard from folks who have worked with them is that they were disappointed.
I agree with the comment that the other 2 been around for a long time. I'd worked with both of them. In situ form and National Water. I never heard of Truax Corp either, at least that I'm aware of.
Yeah, we attempted to solicit 5 quotes, and 2 vendors declined us to provide a bid.
So this just shows that we have to have a very tight specifications if we go out to bid, because if this is an actual bid, we wouldn't have much of a choice. If they met the requirements, we'd have to go with the low bidder.
Well, you can always put a qualifications packet with it too, Lee, so that you can eliminate
Right.
an unqualified bidder.
That's what I'm saying by tight
Pre-bid.
bid. Tight
Yeah,
bid.
you can get rid of a pre-bid.
Yeah.
Okay, board members, any other questions or observations here?
Just
What's the next step?
question. But first, what kind of information do we have on all these regions of what is the existing pipe? What's the material? Do we know that? I assume we do.
We do. Yes, we do.
Tim, where could I get a look at that?
I can, well, that would be a lot of plans for each region, but maybe some of the priority lines, I can probably send that to you. Or you can come into the office and we can look at it.
I was gonna suggest, I don't mind coming down
Sure.
and poking through some stuff, but I'd be interested in knowing what the existing pipes are, what the material is.
Absolutely.
Any of these transite?
Some of it may be. Some of it may be clay. Especially
Vitrified clay.
in the F5 region. I can report that some of the issues that were presented in photos, like the foundation drain, that's a plumber's jurisdiction and a plumber's department jurisdiction, but our engineering staff is researching all of those issues to send letters to the property owners about mitigating those issues, and we're looking into the catch basin issue. The F5 area is the Bliss Corner area, which flows into the city of New Bedford, which I recommended that we study to assist with any II that is flowing into the city. So just to let you know that all the other areas do flow to our treatment facility.
I think one of the most concerning things is that looking at Hazen's data, that line that runs from north to south, that's the main trunk line to the plant servicing the northern part of the town, has some significant I&I issues. And I think the other point of concern is the one that goes from Captain's Lane north to the lift station at Russell Mills, running along the shore of Upper Pontiac Bay. That's a very great concern.
Those are both regions that we identified in the report as high priority for CCTV.
I mean, those lines I know are pre-72. So I mean, we're now approaching close to 60 years old, and those are major lines. I mean, Lee mentioned the surcharging on that manhole on Elm Street. I remember the surcharging on the manhole at Russell Mills, where it takes a right, goes south through the wetland area of Pascamanchit to get to the plant. The remedy for those two are going to be extremely expensive.
I think that's what prioritization is for. Highlight the areas where we get the most bang for the buck, and you start one and gradually work your way through. You can't do all of them at the same time. You got to go after the not just the highest flows, but also the ones that you can get the most bang for the dollar.
Absolutely. So I think if we move forward with the CCTV footage and get in there and look at the pipe situations, and if we can figure out where some of these leaks are coming from, we could prioritize the mitigation.
I think one of the things that I'm going to ask, and maybe we deal with it a little later under item number 1 in project updates, is that as each of these developments that we're reading the reports from our consultant on the gallons per day contribution to the wastewater plant, I really think we should take a formal vote to ask the select board for legal counsel as to whether or not we have the authority to promulgate either a bylaw or regulations that they would do a one-to-one abatement for the gallonage that they are talking to add to the system, specifically to offset the capital cost of such improvements as we're looking at on the two major sewer lines. I know the Commonwealth does this on a number of regulatory permits, where they actually look for a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 abatement on certain issues. And I think we should get a clear answer on that, because what we have here with these projects is going to be very costly, and it's going to have to be paid for through the users of the sewer system. And I think if we're able to abate that cost somewhat by a one-to-one cost sharing for the gallonage that is coming from these major projects, it's worth consideration.
Do we still have a capital fee that includes, for the sewer connections, that includes an I&I fee?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we are already charging something for I&I.
Yeah, so currently we charge a single-family residential connection includes a $500 II fee as part of the connection fee. Anything over 4 bedrooms, we charge $5 per gallon per day.
Then I think we need to take a careful look at this, because the total gallons per day that are coming from these 6 or 7 residential units, maybe that particular category of users we need to look at, maybe make some modification.
Okay.
Tim, I agree, and I get the sense that our ability to reduce I&I, particularly in the areas that have the highest contribution, will substantially improve our position with the existing wastewater treatment facility and give us some breathing space, perhaps, as we go through the comprehensive wastewater management plan and engineering for whatever changes need to be made. But I see that it will take a while to actually implement I&I control for some of these sections, given the kind of facility we're looking at. But I think it's worth making this a high priority and keeping this in front of us.
Absolutely, it is a high priority. I can state that in 2020 we did update our fees from the previous fee structure, which was lower for connection fees and inflow and infiltration. So that's currently what we're using, the 2020 fees that the board set. Unfortunately, there is an existing 40B that was applied for prior to 2020. So they actually appealed the fees, and they were able to get approved for the previous fee before that was set before 2020, unfortunately, because the housing court requires that fees cannot be changed after their application process.
I believe there's a lot of case law regarding capital charges. So I think that is one. I think Mike suggested having council look at it. I agree with that, because it's an area that we have to tread carefully. There's a lot of case law, and there's communities that end up having to return funds, and this goes back many years. So I think
regarding capital charges, it's typically based on their percentage of flow into the system. So depending on the facility, it can in the system location, it could be moderate to large, or it can be a very small amount depending on where they tied into the system.
I think, we need some expert advice. As Leah said, we're into a new area, and that the issue is going to fall back on our board. Did we explore every opportunity to properly defray the capital costs to address the issues that we're seeing here and the issues that are going to come up in the CWMP? I want to know where we stand, and I later on in this on project updates, I'm going to make the motion that we take a vote to make a formal request to the select board for legal counsel specialized in this particular subject, because I feel that we have a responsibility to address this.
Absolutely, I agree.
Tim, I'm intrigued by Mr. Gagne's suggestion that we look into offsets. I know offsets are used for air quality. I haven't heard them used in this kind of a situation, but I think it's worth looking into. I really do. And the idea of offsetting new flow by reduction of flow somewhere in the system is an easy concept for people to grasp. And we have a lot of opportunity to do that kind of mitigation and a solid engineering basis for where that would happen. So I think it's a ripe question. And, maybe it's never been done, and I'm not sure we want to be the first, but if it's been done anywhere successfully, we ought to pursue it.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay,
Thank you
hearing
for the
none.
Presentation.
Yes, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Ben and Mitchell. We appreciate
And the
it.
report that was included in our package. Very useful information. And obviously, we're going to spend some money controlling I&I.
Mr. Chairman, can we have that particular presentation made by these individuals put up and is on a link, so that I see cats on here, that the link could be, because I think that's very important. People understand that there are some significant issues here, and they're aware of it from the very beginning.
Have you had a chance to look at the report that is the basis for this presentation, Mr. Gagne?
I have not read. I glanced at it, but I haven't read the full detail. I think
I'm open to either the report or the presentation being posted. There is a place for it in the water quality folder that's now on the town's website. Could you, Mr. Gagne, can I ask you to take a look at that report briefly and decide and make a recommendation to Tim? And I personally would go along with whatever the two of you decide.
Sure, I'll mark up what sections I think so that people can go right to the meat of the subject.
Yeah, and it may be the presentation is the best thing to post. But I'll leave it to you to how much detail is appropriate.
If there's any summary in the report, Mike, I think if there's some sort of summary to go along with the presentation would probably help for people who may not be familiar what this is all about.
Good.
Okay. Any other comments, board members? Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation and the work behind it. I appreciate it. Okay, moving along to Tim.
Thank you.
Item new business J, sewer betterment discharge of lien. Tim?
So this discharge of lien is a little different from what we typically deal with. So Attorney Quinton of Williams, Quinton and O'Leary had reached out regarding a property that had a, a sewer betterment assessment that was previously abated, but he wanted to release the lien on the property for that betterment assessment. He had reached out to the assessor's office, and they said since it was abated by the Board of Public Works that they wouldn't be able to release it. They would have to reach out to the Public Works. The documents of the abatement are in your packet. So looks like in December of 1996, this sewer betterment was ordered and recorded. And then 1998, the resident at 23 High Street owned the adjacent property, which includes their driveway access, which had a sewer betterment on it as well, and they had come before the board and requested an abatement. Manny Branco at that time issued the abatement, and the reasoning of the abatement stated that it was a theft in error. So typically, if a sewer was abated on a property based on the fact that it may be undersized or not building, the board typically would say if it's ever connected to the sewer, then the full betterment would be assessed along with the interest. But this abatement did not state that, as it stated that it was assessed in error.
Tim, what is the recommendation here?
I would recommend, so this gets with recent development and bills coming before the voters. One of the bills is regarding the allowance of 5,000 square foot lots for residential dwellings, as long as there are sewer connections. And along with those 5,000 square foot lots to build a house, they would also allow additional ADUs on those properties as well. Let me check the area of this lot.
So exactly,
It's definitely, yeah.
exactly what is before us here?
So Attorney Quinton is requesting the release of the betterment assessment that was recorded and placed on the deed of this property.
Okay, and this would be the undeveloped property with the driveway right-of-way, is that correct?
Correct.
And how much is the request?
So the betterment assessment was originally $2,700. This assessment was abated back in 1997 or 98, 97.
February 24th, 1997.
Correct.
That the board voted.
So exactly how much is involved and where does it come from? In other words, we're talking about a discharge of the abatement, Tim, in plain
Not,
words
not discharge of the abatement, but of the assessment.
of the assessment. So what does that mean? Do they get a check back?
Nope, they did not pay for the assessment because they
Right.
abated it back in 1997. So typically the assessment would be either paid for up front or placed on their taxes over a number of years, and then they would pay with interest. They would pay it back through a number of years. Once that's paid off, they would request the release through the assessor's office. With this, since it was abated, they weren't ordered to pay any of it by the Board of Public Works.
But what does the discharge mean in
The
plain
discharge
language?
would release the lien of the assessment off of their title.
Okay, so it's more a paperwork exercise.
Correct. And typically the board releases a notice of betterment, which is typically placed on parcels prior to the order of betterment being placed, which is the actual number. This is for the actual betterment assessment that was abated and stated in error. I mean, the board may view this as, if they ever do connect, and if they do ever develop that property or connect, that they should pay the original betterment.
I think
I agree with that. I was going to say the abatement is already done, but if there's a caveat that we can put in releasing it, that if they are going to build there in the future, like you said before, that they have to pay the betterment plus interest and fairness to everyone, to the neighborhood, to the neighbors.
Yeah, right. I think Lee's approach makes the most sense. I just want to make sure that if they do what Tim said, a house on 5,000 square feet or an ADU, that they pay the betterment plus the interest. So I would make a motion that we would discharge the lien on 113 lot 28 for the purposes of closing that off of the title of that property. I would just ask that a notation be made in the DPW sewer files that should they return before they're given a sewer permit, that they pay the betterment plus interest.
And Mike, if you don't mind, I would also add that we also communicate that in writing to whoever's requesting that we release this.
I so amend to include the issue of a written verification to Attorney Quinton.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Gagne. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Second by Mr. Aznera. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Aznera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Tim, if there's any objection or any issues raised by either our counsel or Mr. Quinton, could you get back to us and tell us what those issues are?
Absolutely. I would, prior to issuing the release, I will draft up some language for Mr. Quinton, and I can run it through legal counsel as well.
Okay. Thank you. Next item is approval of the IFE for the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan. Tim?
So upon the board's request at previous meetings, we have obtained a quote for the independent fee evaluation for the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, scope and fee from Conoco of Mount Juliet, Tennessee. The IFE report is estimated to be completed and delivered within 15 days of the signed contract. The cost of the IFE is $6,500.
I had raised, Mr. Chairman, this particular issue. Tim, the cost of the contract for the CWNP is what, $690,000?
Yes.
I've been working on some projects with the city, and the use of IFEs are quite consistent, especially when federal and state money is involved. What they do with this is they look at the task, they look at the charge or value for that task, and the individual who performs the task, and whether or not it's the proper individual at the proper rate and not an individual at a much higher rate than is necessary to perform the task. Once they've done this, generally you will go and revisit if there are any areas of concern, if there's more than a 10% variance between what they find is appropriate charge for the task and the person who performs it. We're talking almost $750,000 here, probably one of the most important studies we're going to be doing in a long time. I think this money is well spent.
I agree with you, Mike. The only question I have is, I assume the billing for the CWMP will be on a what is it, hourly, not to exceed? It's not lump sum.
Lump sum.
Lump sum, but how's the billing? Is it based on hourly, or they just bill percentages?
Percentage.
Okay.
And the total cost is $627,200.
Okay, as to the IFE, do I have a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve a task order for an IFE with Conoco, I guess they're engineers, for $6,500.
So I will second that.
Motion by Mr. Gagne, second by Mr. Aznera. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mr. Aznera?
I vote yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
I vote yes.
Chair votes yes. The
Amen.
item is approved. So we would expect to see
Amen.
that within a couple of weeks, right, Tim?
Yeah, we'll look for them to expedite this as quick as possible.
I'm sorry, Mr. Greenlaw, did you have something?
No, I made no comment.
Okay. Thank you. I may be hearing things. Next item is committee updates from board members. Do any of the board members have any committee updates? All right, then I do. At the Water Quality Committee 2 days ago, I gave a presentation on the Department of Public Works water quality programs, and I followed. The first presentation was on watersheds, watershed planning, and how that fits into improving and maintaining local water quality. I admit that my presentation was too long and too detailed, and I had to truncate it at the end. But the written version is posted, and everyone had a written version in hand. So the main focus was the sewer collection and treatment system and the stormwater program, focusing initially on MS4, and then mention of the I&I program and the aquifer protection program. So those are the main items, but there are some other things that Public Works does that were sort of folded in, and that includes things like our recycling, in particular recycling motor oil at the transfer station. So it reinforced my opinion that Public Works is doing a lot of good stuff for water quality.
I was also there. It was well done. And I think the fact that there were two presentations at that single meeting didn't give a lot of time, to have two presentations. So I think if it was only the only presentation at the meeting, you wouldn't have had to truncate it.
All right. Any questions or comments? Okay. Moving
Next
to
meeting?
2 week next month.
Do you usually try to come up with a tentative meeting date at the end of the meetings just for planning
Yeah, I've got
purposes?
it.
Or?
I think I got it on my calendar. I'll circulate it to the board members. And it's an open public meeting, and it will be the one we had 2 days ago will be rebroadcast. In the future, I don't know whether our meetings will be broadcast live, but they are recorded and will be available to the public on the cable system.
Good.
Okay, Tim, director updates.
I also, so as far as committee updates / director updates, so we're working on our capital improvement plan. So for the fall town meeting. So we don't typically, and historically, we haven't typically created a new capital plan for a fall town meeting for the same fiscal year. But last year and this year, they have requested a update of our capital plan. So we're working on that currently, and we are scheduled to present to the Capital Improvement Committee on September 9th at 8 a.m. And our capital is due tomorrow by the end of the day. So we'll continue working on that today and tomorrow and get that submitted to the finance director. And once we have that together, I will present the board with our capital plan moving into the fall town meeting. The fall town meeting is scheduled for October 20th at, I believe, 7 p.m. at the Dartmouth High School.
Tim,
Yes.
I think I had mentioned it before. The enterprise funds that we have for a couple of the different divisions in DPW, they have to submit to the Department of Revenue certification of retained earnings, including any encumbrances that are deducted before they certify the retained earnings.
Absolutely.
I think it would be very helpful if both the encumbrances and the documentation submitted to the Department of Revenue be furnished copies to the board members as we progress along. Be very interesting to see how they're doing and also comparing them to previous year.
So I do have the estimated uncertified report. I can send it to the board.
That's great. Thank you.
Does the board usually get a copy of the certified free cash that comes from the state once they accept those numbers?
In the enterprise funds?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim.
Okay, so a couple project updates. Multi-unit residential development project. The Sherbrooke 40B project was approved at their last meeting. I wasn't in attendance. I believe a couple of our board members were attending. The Hathaway 40B was continued in that. Closing hearing is scheduled for tonight at 5 p.m. at room 304, which is the select board meeting room at Town Hall. So I will be in attendance. I've been working with special counsel on a number of items. I did forward the conditions and the waiver requests to the board for your review.
Mr. Chairman, as I had mentioned earlier, I was going to bring up a concern here on the issue that it seems like I get more and more questions in my mind relative to, the gallons per day that are being contributed to the system. and what latitudes we have relative to addressing that when they come in for their permits before water and sewer. What I'd like to do is I'd like to memorialize what the questions are that I have, and that I would like to then have them, sent to the superintendent, and then a formal request be made to the select board to ask the select board to provide legal counsel to review those questions and have an in-person meeting with our board to answer them. I think I certainly feel personally that I need some direction, and I need to know where we can go and where we cannot go. I think we have a responsibility before any formal request to be made for sewer and water connection permits that we have some information in that regard. I read the Stantec report for both of those projects, and they both raised red flags in those reports relative to our water system and our sewer system. And one in particular raises a significant red flag that a major improvement is needed in upgrading a state road lift station. We learned with the Ellswick station, that project came in at $3 million. We cut the project back. It got a grant for $1 million, but still, town put in money on that project, and it was for capacity issues related to the preserve. If we've learned anything, we need to get some answers before we get too far down the pike. And I'd say if we could get any concerns or questions that Tim could put into a letter, I would ask for, to make a motion that we would make a formal written request to the select board for legal counsel assistance.
Do I have a second? Okay.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gagne and seconded by Mr. Esnera. I'd like to have a little discussion on this. Mike, for example, do you have your questions pretty much written out?
I have some written out. I have more of them in my head. And I can work expeditiously on this. I can get to Tim, something by the end of the day on Friday, so he could share it with the board members.
That would be great.
I think this might be one of those circumstances where we put together a 2-person working group to assist Mike in putting those questions together. Is anyone interested in helping with this? I think it's an important issue.
I would be interested in looking it over and maybe providing some suggestions. My concern is, I think it's twofold. One, yes, we should be getting everything we can, but to make sure that whatever we put in place is something that will stand up to a legal challenge, because there's been a history of court cases related to these things. So I think there's ways to do it, and I agree with Mike. We need to find out how to do it, but do it in a way that it will then withstand possible legal challenges, because the higher the amounts, the bigger the projects, the more likely they are to spend money on legal. So we want to do it right.
Lee, do you have the interest to work with Mike on this?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a vote. Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Mr. Asnera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Mr. Gagne's motion is approved, and we have 2 people from the board who will work with Tim on those questions. Okay.
Rob, could I just ask, I know I've read through them both, and I have some questions in my head. I haven't had time to memorialize them, but can I, for any questions that I have, I'd like to forward them to, whether it's Michael or whoever, some direction where I might send my questions.
Forward them to me, Mr. Greenlaw.
Yeah.
Do you, Tim?
Yes.
Yeah, the right way to do this is to work through the department head, and then since others will be working with him, he'll have the ability to discuss blending those comments and questions together.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Tim, next item.
So this is just an update. So at the previous meeting, I believe Mr. Gagne had requested a number of the sewer accounts be itemized for commercial accounts, residential accounts, and multi-residential accounts, multi-unit. So we did break that up. The water division helped work with Sandy Waterman to put this together. I did submit it as an item, and along with that, so separately, Ross and planning has been working on GIS mapping for all of the sewer account parcels. So he also submitted a parcel map and it's a draft map with all of the parcels that have sewer accounts. I also submitted that to the board for their review. And what I did, I had engaged him in the water division to break it up into commercial, multi-unit residential, and residential parcels, and so they can color code the individual parcel, so we can see the location of the type of use. So working with the water division is going to work on getting that itemized on the spreadsheet that they can then input into GIS and then populate on the map.
We only have 5 large multi-unit. Seems low.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of multi-units. You know, we have a number of 4s and 6s, and then we don't have a lot of large multi-units. There was never any zoning for multi-units in Dartmouth.
You have few on Dartmouth Street, right?
There's one on Dartmouth Street and one being built. Right.
Yeah, okay, it's 2. That's 2. Along Route 6. Okay, I expected more.
Yeah, along Route 6, the preserve's being built. Since that was a commercial area, it wasn't typically used for residential and multi-unit residential until the 40B affordable housing came in. There's a Ledgewood off of Font's Corner. That's a pretty large one.
Okay, any further questions on multi-unit residential development projects? Okay, Tim, sewer accounts, anything else?
No, so that's just for the board to view. If you have any comments or questions, and just let me know. I'll be working with the departments to get that updated on that map, and I'll send it over to the board.
Okay, any other questions? Tim, road maintenance?
So Hawthorne Street improvements, working with the consultant. This is on the transportation improvement plan with Mass DOT. We're working at the 25% stage with and currently working with ICE, or intersection control, with Mass DOT. They had originally recommended a roundabout at the intersection of Hawthorne Street and Slocum Road. We weren't really in line with that recommendation, so we did express our concerns. We're working on an alternative design, and we submitted to Mass DOT, and they reviewed it, and we're working on comments currently. Crossroad improvements project, phase 1, also on a transportation improvement plan with Mass DOT. We're working towards 100% design for this. working with our consultants. They're working on the stormwater design and the 100% design, and I'm working through council on the title review and working with a firm on the appraisals for any easements and takings in that area for those improvements. Hoping to have more updates soon. They're planning on submitting the NOI to notice of intent to Mass DOT this week, and their goal is to submit to Dartmouth Conservation in September, which is next week. So,
Board members, any comments or questions?
The only comment that I wanted to make under the road maintenance section is I have noticed in driving throughout town that a lot of homes, their individual landscaping and their plantings are impeding significantly into the right of way. It doesn't seem to bother me too much that it's in the shoulders, which sometimes with no sidewalks are where people walk. But now I see that it's actually going into the paved areas. And it's also an impediment on intersections for lines of sight. I would ask Tim maybe issue a general announcement that he would give to the local newspaper, that it's people's responsibilities. I certainly understand the trepidation of the gentleman who goes and cuts the vegetation back with that machine before he goes and starts chopping up, some beautiful shrubbery and trees. I think we ought to be given fair notice to those folks that it's their responsibility to get it back. It just seems in a couple of locations, it seems to be getting very problematic.
You're absolutely correct. I've noticed this as well, and I've been thinking about a public notification that we could work with our communications staff at town hall and get it out to the masses. And I think any individual properties we can submit letters to either maintain the overgrowth, or we would have to maintain it, and they don't want us to maintain it with the job.
It won't be as pretty when we do it.
Any other comments?
So the Route 6 upgrade and improvement project from Mass DOT from Fonts Corner Road just past Hathaway Road, including that intersection upgrade, is scheduled to be advertised in June of 2027. They expect DOT to submit the NOI for Concom sometime in September or October as well on that project. I know that some of the delays were the designing of the replacement of the Pascamanset River Bridge culvert and all the utilities that go through it. So part of this project also is scope for removing the concrete mat over all along that corridor on Route 6, which is under the pavement. So that's a big undertaking. I've submitted for grants and for funding for replacing the water main as well in this area. We currently have a 10-inch, I believe, transite, and we'd like to upgrade that to a 12-inch ductile iron line for improved volume and flow through this area, and obviously reduce any breaks or repairs needed after this construction is completed.
Does this include
I haven't received any funding or grant funding for this yet.
Tim, does this include the new lights at the Hathaway Road?
Yes, it includes intersection improvements with lights at Fonts Corner Road and Hathaway Road. Tucker Road. I'm sorry, Tucker Road and Hathaway Road.
Yeah.
Tim, can you ask the folks at MassDOT for a copy of their proposed traffic management plan and see that the safety officer and the town administrator and the select board get a copy of that. The situation as it exists now is high on the radar as problematic continuously. Select board comments on it often. I think we need to get that in front of the safety officer and the select board for their input and comment before that period of June 27th. I can't.
Are you looking for construction traffic management or post-construction?
Construction traffic management. And it wouldn't hurt to also give them a copy of what the final traffic management plan will look like. You said they were at 75% design on that?
They're working towards 100%.
Have they held their public comment period with the select board?
Yes. Yeah, okay. That was quite a while ago. Yeah.
All right, thank you. But I think
that's probably posted. You could probably watch that.
Yeah, I think you get those documents to the safety officer. We got a little less than a year before that. And I think that would be very helpful input, especially with the police station within a stone's throw from where that work's being done.
Yeah. And we're working through our FY27 road construction work. We've done a number of roads for mill and overlay. We just finished Slocum Road, and we striped all the center lines and crosswalks and stop lines on Slocum Road, Chase Road, and a number of other roads in town that needed relining. So they're ready for the school year. And we'll be moving towards our fall program shortly. And I'll update the board with what that plan is. Any questions? Next, I was asked to bring the Bayner Bridge update to the board. My last update on the bridge design stated that Mass DOT was expecting a 25% submission this fall. I did reach out to Mass DOT, and they stated that the movable span preservation project design continues to progress, and the design consultant has initiated the 25 to 75% preservation design. And within the next week, they stated that they would advance a report for my review, and I can submit that to the board for their review as well. And that we would schedule to meet with Mass DOT and possibly the design team.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Tim, what have they been doing at the bridge over the last couple of months? What has been the nature of the work?
So we had to replace the jack a while back. So we actually scheduled that closing and got that replaced and fixed. And then this past week, closing was more of an emergency. What had happened was the jacks have a transmission on them, and that transmission is mounted to the structure. Well, that mount broke, and the transmission rotated and twisted and was whining, making a lot of noise. So they checked it out. They found out that was the issue. So we spanned the bridge later that day in line with an opening that was scheduled for a boat, and they had to remove the mount in the transmission and then fabricate. We fabricated our mechanics fabricated in house a new mount, and we did have a spare transmission for that jack. So they did the fabrication and they worked on it that day, and they worked on it to the next day, worked through lunch and got it repaired. And through that, when they were doing that work, they were checking out some of the other jacks and found another jack that needed that was also making some noise. So they removed and replaced that other jack to prevent any other failures. So they got that all done in that day and a half that the bridge was closed.
Thank you for that clarification.
Absolutely.
Tim, do you have any sense of, first of all, whether public pressure on DOT would, excuse me, speed up their design process? And second of all, how, if that is something that you think might help, how we do that? I'm getting comments from people about how long it's been taking, and the thing seems to be stuck at 25%. And, you know, it's just a lot of questions and a lot of comments.
You know, my assumption is that, you know, with the amount of large bridge improvements that the state's working on, that, you know, that the Payne Bridge doesn't really, it's not really a priority to them. So to move it expeditiously, let's say. But I do keep in touch with the state, and you know, I think any pressure that, you know, anyone could put on them to move this along would help, because the bridge isn't getting any younger. The parts are failing, the mechanicals, the electricals. You know, we have to constantly repair. The joints are, you know, the expansion joints are cut back as much as they can be cut back. You know, as material expands and contracts, you never get that full contraction back. And as it continuously expands and contracts, the material actually grows, and we lose that space. And that's what happens a lot of times when you get that heat, and the bridge gets over 120 degrees. You can't cool it down. It expands, and it's actually catching on other parts of the structure on the abutment, so on the causeway. So, you know, it's going to keep happening because it's beyond that expansion and contraction point. So I think we need to push them to get this design, to get it funded.
Yeah, the people that talk to me don't really care so much about the fine points of the design process and 25 and 75% and that kind of stuff. They just want to know when the damn thing's going to get fixed. And I think,
right. And I can say, so the Governor Baker had authorized that the bond bill for the design be used, which is through Mass DOT. And that's the only funding currently available for the bridge. So we don't currently have funding for the construction work. So I think pushing to get that funded is a huge component of getting this done.
Okay. Board members, any other questions? Okay, Tim, anything else on your list?
Kind of lastly, drought status. We're still in a mild drought. A lot of the state is still in a significant drought. We're luckily in a mild drought. Currently, our A well is offline being cleaned. B well has been cleaned and is waiting for parts. It had a failed pump. Our F wells are still down from storm damage from the blizzard, which the parts were expected to be in by the end of August. So we're the transformer. These transformers have really long lead times, and we're hoping to get that any day so we can update those wells and get those F wells back online. Due to the past Comanche River levels, we recently, last week, we had to shut down E well, and the rain over the last weekend wasn't enough to get that level back up. So, you know, we're hoping to get some more rain, but it seems to keep breaking up and passing us by. Our Pinelli wells are all online except for P2, which has been cleaned, and a pump motor is also being replaced. That well also has some cannon issues, so So we're looking at how we can reduce those standings or remove them. And that's about it.
Board members, any questions?
Rob, I like your concept now that we have more than 3 board members. The whole issue of water sufficiency, water consumption, certainly in my opinion, and I'm going to nominate you for one of the positions on this, Rob, is that we need to have a subcommittee or two look at very in depth on this particular issue. It's the second thing on my radar that's drawing grave concern, because we haven't even added the 1,400 residential units across 7 projects in this town. And we're just going to be buying more water from New Bedford. The issue of exploration of possible connection to Fall River will take time and not necessarily maybe a resolution. We need some in-depth work on this. So, Rob, I know your background in California, you dealt with this an awful lot, and I'm hoping another board member will join you to really dive into this issue.
Well, I'm open, and I have some ideas of how to proceed with engaging the public. There are certainly people out there with various ideas, and I think it would be useful to get a number of them into a room and simply do the classic brainstorming, so we know what people think, and then we can help focus our efforts and the town on augmenting our water supplies. And I think we're lucky to have New Bedford as a backup. But I also think it's wise to look at augmenting the supply in other ways if it makes financial sense. So, whether that be additional wells or connection with Fall River, I don't know. I think that needs to be discussed and evaluated in public. But there are certainly opinions out there. Okay, do I have someone to help me? Mike, it sounds like you're passing the buck on this, if I may use.
Well, Lee and I are working on the most important issue, sewer and waste.
I know you are. I
would ask Addison to pop up and step up to working with Rob.
Since I'm also on the water quality committee with Rob, then yes, I would do that.
Okay.
I love it.
Perhaps you and I can have coffee and sort of figure out which direction we want to head. Okay.
That would be fine. I won't be home until tomorrow morning, but
certainly
we can get in touch. I'll get in touch with you and we'll arrange something.
All righty. So, Michael, do you have any other assignments you want to make?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
Okay. Any other issues or discussion, Tim?
I have one last item. So, just an update on. Sorry. Item H for new business was the licensed utility layer application. I know we continued this. They did submit their updated certificate of insurance with the workers' comp, and they asked if they could be voted on today.
Tim met all the requirements?
What's that?
They met all of the requirements?
Yes, so they have, let me see. They have met all their requirements. They have all their certificates of insurance. What they were missing was they had an exclusion on their workers' comp certificate, and for years we don't allow any exclusions in the company, and their exclusion was that one of their offices was an office clerk. They weren't working in the field, so they didn't know that they needed to have workers' comp for that staff. But we have kind of a blanket requirement. And Lee probably remembers this from previous years, that all employees of a licensed utility company, we require workers' comp, because we can't distinguish who's a clerk and who holds what position. And some companies don't have clerks. Some companies are just the owner and a laborer. So I think the board had voted for that years ago.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll entertain it, I would make a motion that we consider the licensed utility layer application from WC Excavation LLC.
Okay, we did continue this item, so we have a motion to pick it up. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to bring this back to the board. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved. I think since they've met the requirements,
So
I make a motion that we approve the license.
So they have been in business for 2 years. They meet the requirements. They had submitted letters of references from the city of Fall River for drain layer work, Portsmouth Water and Fire for utility work, and they also recently submitted from Tiverton for utility work, and all in good standing.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Asniera. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. Asniera, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The item is approved.
Right. And I'll forward the full package with the additional reference letter and the certificate of insurance with the workers' comp to the board.
All right. Any other items, Tim?
That is all.
Okay, I will enter if board members have nothing else to add, they want to discuss.
I do.
Mr. Gagne?
Extend.
I'll promise very quick. Select board's meeting, as I understand it, next Monday. I understand that one of our long-term board members, in fact, is leaving us. I would ask that certainly the board send a thank you note for the dedication and time that board member has put in. I would like to have our board, as they made a recommendation previously, that if the question comes up as to whether or not the board recommends Mr. Jim Ritchie to fill that vacancy, that we certainly maybe not take a vote, but we have consensus amongst us that that would be a very good choice, since it was one that ranked high through our interviews. Very concerned, and I'm hoping Tim is addressing it, that situation at Delano Apartments where the sidewalk is blocked off with chain link fence, so that people, and a lot of people walk on Dartmouth Street, have to walk out and go into the breakdown lane to get around that fencing that's over the sidewalk there. If you've got to go to town council to get that thing resolved expeditiously, it's a liability just waiting to happen. So
the Delano Apartment, that was actually on my update, but we had jumped to the next item. So John Connell in the engineering division has been working out with the contractor, and it seems like they were prioritizing other work while they were trying to figure out the sewer issue with the manhole that they had installed in the right of way. So they have gotten that pretty much resolved. They had the additional section. They were working on the clean out it was an exterior drop sewer manhole that they were installing there, but they didn't seem to be expediting this work that was within the right of way or providing signage or additional pedestrian access. So we brought that to their attention. John's been working with them, and it seems like they should have that. If it's not already done yesterday, it should be done by today.
Please make sure that they immediately pour the sections of sidewalks that the town paid for some 10 years ago on Dartmouth Street reconstruction. they poured that immediately, so there is no walking over gravel and any kind of trip edges. That was just way, way too long for them to leave that like that. It's just completely unacceptable.
I agree 100%.
One thing I would like to bring up is, since we will have a full board of 5 members, and I personally find talking to members and discussing with members in person, it seems to work better for my mind, and I'm not sure if, Zoom is always the best medium for, candid exchange. I would like to see if we could do at least every other meeting in person. It's at a location that's suitable so that DCTV continues to film it. I think that would be helpful.
Mike, I will not be able to do the September meeting in person. Today I could have, but not September.
All right, so maybe we look at October being the first one in person, if that's okay with everybody. But again, I think this is convenient for Zoom, but if we did every other one, I think that would be helpful.
Jim, could you look into rooms and give us a little bit of a sense of how that might work?
Absolutely, I worked with DCTV on that.
Yeah, I think the room that they have, I think it's 305 or 307, has all the camera equipment and everything set up, and it's for a multi-member board. They do the refuse district meeting there, works very good. That would be perfect for it.
And then we can, I'm not sure whether we want to change the timing of our meetings, but that might be something we discuss as well, particularly if we're going to have in-person meetings.
Yeah. As I get older, 7:30 seems to come quicker.
Yes.
Well, particularly as we get into the fall and days get shorter.
All right. Can we have Tim send a consensus of the board on the appointment? I really would like to see them make that appointment on Monday night, since we probably have a committee that we could assign Jim to immediately, but I won't do it in his absence.
So I did speak with Mr. Haddad, and he was working on that. So I assume it will be Monday night, but I can confirm for you.
Thank you.
He was actually previously working on this past Monday, but they weren't able to get a quorum or get the board together until this coming Monday.
I think also a letter to our retiring board member, if you could put that together. I mean, we were tremendously lucky in Dartmouth to have an individual with 29 years as a superintendent in the city of New Bedford. And I really want to make sure that we express our gratitude in the form of written correspondence to him.
Absolutely. I can work on that. And
thank you.
I'll have it for all the board members to sign.
Great. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
So
I do have one question.
Yes.
Landfill tour tomorrow.
Yes.
Where are we meeting?
Give me one. Hold on one second.
Anybody else going?
Yeah, I'm going, Lee.
I took a tour 6 months ago, and I've been on enough landfills to recognize one that's reasonably well run. So
the meeting it's tomorrow at 1:00, meeting at Crapo Hill.
So we'll meet there. You going, Tim?
I'm not. I've been to a few tours.
Yeah.
And
not
that I don't want to. We just have to. We have to finish our capital and my presentation.
Yeah. So no, in my 10 years on the board before, never got out there. So I figured I'd give it a.
Yeah, it's a great view from the top. It is.
So I'm going because
at a time.
I'm going because I haven't seen it since I built the first cell.
There you go.
Oh.
And they're hoping to get
That was a
permitting
long- That was a
they're
long
hoping to get
time.
permitting to build a new cell. So,
Yeah, well, it was a long time ago.
yes. Great.
Okay, any other items, Tim?
This time.
I think based on the conversation, you have consensus on the board for Mr. Ritchie. Mike, if you think you want to vote, we could take one, but I think the consensus is in there.
Well,
It's not on the agenda, so we probably couldn't vote on it.
right.
yeah, we previously voted at one of our agenda meetings. I think if Tim just shares that vote from that meeting, that would be sufficient. I would agree with Tim. We haven't really agended this particular matter, but I think the previous correspondence that Tim had with Cody is sufficient to know the position of our board.
Absolutely.
Okay. If there is nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Enjoy the
Motion
sauce.
by Mr. Asniera, second by Mr. Gagne. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
yes.
Mr. Asniera?
Yes.
Mr. Greenlaw?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time